story, a home invasion turned trip to the hospital for one man who's now in police custody. The brash break-in happened at 5:30 yesterday, right in daylight in Citrus Heights.
Your reporter Ashley Sharp is covering Sacramento County tonight and tells us the suspect didn't make out with anything but a beatdown.
Yeah, not so lucky, right? This homeowner actually says that he thinks that this was an attempted robbery gone wrong. The suspect, who is not yet being named by Citrus Heights police at this hour, walked through the front door that was left unlocked and got a bit more than he bargained for, coming face to face with a father whose protective instinct kicked right in.
Captured on doorbell camera, the moment Bobby Tucker says this intruder picked the wrong home to mess with.
He stops, looks around, see if anyone was looking, and then comes in and starts attacking my kids.
With only seconds to respond, Tucker was in the back room when he heard screaming from his 14 and 11-year-old boys.
I came out to the hallway and I see this guy over the top of my son, hitting my son, and I just instantly gave my all to take care of my kids.
Tucker fought hand-to-hand with the intruder until he was unresponsive, then held him at gunpoint until Citrus Heights police arrived.
Still a little in shock. I did what I had to do to make sure that everyone was safe.
The 29-year-old suspect that so brazenly walked in the front door left on a stretcher. Citrus Heights police confirmed Friday the suspect is still in the hospital, but in police custody, expected to face charges of robbery and assault.
It makes you feel unsafe, makes you feel like, oh, I want to move somewhere else.
Tucker left wanting more security cameras at his home. And when he watches this video, he sees a scary encounter that could have been much worse.
The kids, they were traumatized. I didn't want my kids to have to see anything like that at all.
Tucker says his children were punched and choked, but will be okay. This father glad he was in the right place at the right time when a would-be robber walked through the front door.
Now, that homeowner will not face any charges. Police praising him for protecting his home and his family. Tucker hopes that this is a warning to others, guys, to always be aware, even in your own home, where he says, of course, you should feel the safest.
Wow. Right? I think that suspect is glad that Mr. Tucker showed some restraint, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially, I mean, he did hold him at gunpoint, at some point, so he could have taken further action.
Right. Ashley.
Okay, so y'all just heard that story right there, and I actually found out, again, this is another one of those stories that I came across on X. I be telling you, some of the best stories that y'all will get from me on this channel come off of that platform, despite the anti-black echo chamber it has become, because it actually put some stuff out there that I would have never thought to even look up or anyone would think to find, and it's just amazing. First off, let me give a salute to this guy Bobby Tucker, who was the black man, who was the father, who was merely protecting his home and most importantly his kids. So you had this random PC guy come up to the door, ring the doorbell, which was a ring, I'm guessing it was a ring doorbell, and he decides that he's gonna try to break into their home. One of the sons answers the door, and then he decides he's gonna put hands on this man's child. And Bobby Tucker gets a hold of this dude and he goes to work. As y'all can see by the picture, he ended up getting put on a stretcher. He came walking up and he left laid out, literally. He was still knocked out on that stretcher, and they say he's still in the hospital. So we don't know to what extent, to what damage this guy actually did to him, but it was enough for him to be carried out like that and for him to still be in the hospital at the time of me recording this video. And they said that he's also still in police custody. This man definitely needs to be hit with a whole bunch of charges, especially assault on a minor and the attempted breaking in of a residence that's not his own. Of course, that's not the technical term for it, but basically that's what he should be charged with, amongst some other charges as well that I can't really think of at the moment, but those two definitely come to mind. First off, let me also just say, well, second, let me just say I'm glad they decided not to charge this man for basically just merely defending his home. And you notice also he had that power tool on him as well. He did that so that guy would not get up and try to leave, because he could have easily pulled the trigger right there. But I think I know why he didn't do it. He didn't want to traumatize his kids any further than they already were. And then he felt like, I already subdued the person. They're knocked out. They're not going anywhere. So it's no need for me to actually pull the trigger on this person. Now, if y'all remember, I did a video about a black barbershop worker or owner out in Philly who got into a confrontation with this racist PC man that lived right above him, and that PC man decided to have the courage enough to come down that day and get in this man's face, and he pulled out the power tool and lit him up like a Christmas tree. And of course he got charged with first-degree murder because they basically said it was overkill because the man was already down, and he decided to pop him about 4 more times. And I saw some people online saying, why didn't he use the power tool? Why didn't he use the power tool? And I just gave you the reasons why. 1, he probably didn't want to traumatize his kids further than they already were. 2, he already had the man subdued, so it was no use for him to have to use it. And 3, if he did, they probably would have hit him up on some charges like they did that man in Philly. Remember, self-defense rarely, if ever, works for black people, as we have seen in the past, especially when it comes to a firearm being used. Not just brandished, but being used, sometimes even brandished. So I'm glad that in that moment he decided to not do it and to show some restraint, because at the end of the day they ended up catching the guy anyway. He ended up doing what he had to do as a father to protect his sons and to protect his property and his home. And then of course, you know what we just recently had with the unfortunate tragedy that befell Sonia Massey. You know, you had her call the cops for a disturbance that she thought was there, and then look at what it led to. So black people, what does Professor Black Truth always say? Make sure that always have your power tools, carry your steel, because as you can see, not all the times where you might have an instance where you run into these situations when you're outside, there are going to be things that will come to your front door, such as this situation right here. So I'm glad that this man had, did what he had to do. He protected his children, which was first and foremost, and he protected his property. I think what probably pissed this man off the most about the whole situation is not necessarily that this guy was trying to break in. Of course, that would make anybody mad, but it's the fact that he put his hands on his son. That's what made him see red, so to speak. That's what made him really go off on him, in my opinion. It was the fact that he put hands on his child. That's when all the red flags went up. You could have put hands on the property or whatever it is, because you can always get a new whatever it is someone takes, but you only get that one child, and he has 2 sons, but you only get one of that particular child. The moment he did that, that's when the Papa Bear in him activated, and he did what he had to do. Now we see the size of this father versus the size of this criminal. Did he really think he stood a chance against this dude unless he had some kind of a weapon on him, which it sounds to me like he didn't? That's the only way. He probably would have did something, but this guy definitely overpowered him, probably in height and size. He probably didn't expect that man to come to the door. See, he saw that kid open the door and thought they may have been home by themselves. He wasn't expecting the dad to be there, and that's exactly why I say the soft target will always be the child, the woman, and the elderly. Someone that cannot maneuver that well with someone like that. But when he came across that black man who, based on these images, is a pretty big dude, a pretty big solid dude. He looked like he probably played sports, maybe football or something like that at one time. Yeah, he ran into the wrong one. For him, it was like running into a fortress, and that was the end result. So definitely shout out to this man for doing what he had to do, taking care of business, standing on business, and standing on his square before he had to knock this PC dude off of his. And one last thing I would like to add in, some people were saying, oh, they need to make sure they do what they need to do with this guy, because when he gets out, he's going to try to do it again. Well, let's just put it this way. If he does try to do it again, he won't do it at this location. And I hope the people are aware of what happened. That way they can be prepared just in case they do release him. But if he was smart, he wouldn't try this again. I'm just saying.